Today was our first frost. Not a major frost, but a frost nonetheless. We got down to -3 Celsius early this morning, about 5 in the morning when I got up. I came outside and saw some frost. It was dark then, so I wasn't able to show you like I am now, but you can see the frost on the ground. And today I want to talk to you guys about what crops you have to be worried about for frost and which ones you don't. And obviously I can't cover all the crops that there are because there's hundreds if not thousands, but I can talk about the ones that I have experience with. So first off, what we're looking at here is I didn't cover my spinach and lettuce yet, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because a light frost like this won't kill them. In fact, a light frost like this can sometimes actually sweeten some vegetables up. So crops like spinach, most varieties of lettuce, radishes, arugula, any brassica type greens like kale, mustards, tatsoys, any of the Asian family greens, a light frost isn't going to damage those crops. It might actually make them taste better. The crops that you do have to worry about are carrots at a young stage. But carrots, if you have mature carrots in the ground and they're going to be harvested within the next couple weeks, a frost on them isn't really going to do much because those roots are very established. The greens you might see some dieback on a little bit, but it's not going to kill the crop. You're going to harvest it nonetheless. The roots are there. But when carrots are at a young stage, if you get a frost, that can damage them. So your issue there is in the springtime. If you've planted a new crop of carrots and you don't have it covered and you get a pretty hard frost, that can wipe your carrot crop out. But again, if it's already mature, it's not so much of an issue. Beets are another crop you don't really have to worry so much about, especially again, just like almost like carrots in the same way. If they're established and you've already got a solid root, the frost isn't going to hurt the crop very much. Red Russian kale and beets here, they're frosted and they will be just fine by the end of the day. Radishes, turnips, those crops are fine. Obviously any type of summer crop, like a fruiting crop, peppers, tomatoes, things like that, those crops will not survive a frost very well. And in fact, I've got some peppers that are mature. Let's go take a look at those. So these are my peppers. These are just my personal supply of peppers, and they've had a good run, so I don't really care if they get frosted. But you can see them drooping down, and the thing with frost is when the frost lands on the crop, that's not what kills the crop. It's when the sun starts to come up in the sky, something happens with a thaw. It's that stress of the thaw, and somebody who understands the science of this can probably explain it way better than I can. I'm just a farmer and I'm just going to explain it to you from my own personal experience, is that when the sun comes up and that light hits the crop and it thaws, that's when things get killed. Because you'll come out, and I've had this happen in previous years when I didn't really know what I was doing as much, and I come out and I see the frost on the crop and it's still standing. In fact, it's actually, I'm going to show you right now, my patty pans have taken it. So my patty pans, they're covered in frost, and you'll come out in the morning like now and they're still standing. You're going, okay, they're okay, they survived. But then you come back later in the afternoon and they've all sagged down, and I suspect that's exactly what's going to happen here. So what we'll do is we will come back later in the afternoon and look at this stuff, and we'll check in on how they're doing then. Here's all of my baby lettuce that we're under our greenhouse that we're going to be putting up. Hopefully going to get some of these arches up today. But you can see a really shiny layer on this Rime fabric, or Agribond fabric they call it. And that's where the frost has settled, and that is what has saved this lettuce from dying, essentially, it's kept that layer of ice off it so that when we get the thaw, later in the day, it's not going to stress those plants. So this is all really Agribon does, is it just protects you from that frost layer. It's not that it keeps the crop any warmer, it just keeps the frost off, and that's what's really important, because these crops, greens and all those greens I mentioned, they can handle the cold going down to just below freezing, but they won't survive a hard frost like we had today. So you can see how that white stuff, part of that was actually the powdery mildew on there, on top of the frost, but you can see as it's thawing out. So this is about 2 hours since I shot in the morning showing you this, and you can see how it's dying down. So the frost in this case is killing the patty pans, so their time is up. So any of the summer crops, you know, the squashes, the nightshades, like the peppers, tomatoes, eggplants, stuff like that will not handle the frost. It's the greens and things like that that will, and we'll go look at the other greens and see how they've done over the last couple hours. Spinach is probably one of the best crops that handles frost very well. Like this is completely unaffected. It looks just as vibrant as it did yesterday at the end of the day. So frost is completely negligible in its effect to spinach. In fact, they say spinach tastes better after a frost because the starches convert to sugars, so it becomes sweet, and that's why winter spinach, which somebody like Elliot Coleman really started marketing in his early days of his market garden, and pushing this sort of winter vegetables, and they taste better and all that, and they do. Carrots and spinach, kale, even the same thing. So the arugula here next to this, unaffected as well. Red Russian over here, which we'll check out, totally unaffected as well. Salanova lettuce, totally unaffected. My chard, which is still in the shade, but the frost is now melted off it, totally unaffected. It will be now sweeter than it was before the frost. Even my parsley and cilantro, that's still in the shade because of the position to my house at this time of year, unaffected by the frost, so it can handle frost. My green onions that are just for me personally, that I've been chipping away at all summer, totally unaffected by the frost. So there's a handful of examples that frost will not hurt. Red Russian, still partially in some shade, and even some parts of it still have frost on them, but totally unaffected by the frost. It will, just like the spinach, it'll make it sweeter and actually make it a bit more vibrant. Some of these crops do really well with these temperature fluctuations, and they enjoy the frost. So I hope you guys have found that helpful. If you want to see more stuff like this, please hit the subscribe button right now. Like and share these videos with your friends, and check out my content on theurbanfarmer.co, where you've got my one-day workshop, my online course, and you can make a donation to the show if you would want to help me support me to make this content. You can do that at theurbanfarmer.co/support. All right, guys, thanks for watching.